Hi, and a warm welcome back then to the Andy Holding Speed Figures YouTube channel with our Day 2 preview and a bit of a Day 1 review as well. It's a fascinating day's action. Unfortunately, no crowds, but no lack of marquee performances, not least, Andy, from Honeysuckle, who put up a truly astonishing display to win the champion hurdle in a very quick time.
Yeah, she was backed as if defeat was out of the question. Rather surprisingly for me, I must admit I was taken aback by the weight of money behind her. I thought she had a favourite's chance, but I thought close to the off 5-4. That was getting a little bit ridiculous. But as it turned out, those that punted her in at all rates were absolutely on the money. She always looked in total control. She was always well positioned. That was a lovely ride by Rachel Blackmore. The race set up perfectly for her. And once she kicked for home, you knew that she wasn't going to get fetched out. Knowing how well she stays and how she comes up the hill. The time figure that we've already done it is very good. So everything about it suggests that she's the best of that division for a little while, and it'll take a good horse to remove her from her crown, including Appreciate It, who we've got a like-for-like comparison in the first.
Yeah, I think the other point, just before we move on from Honeysuckle, what I saw from her today was acceleration on good ground as well, which I didn't think she particularly had in her armoury.
Yeah, I think she accelerated quite nicely at Leopardstown the time before, but not as well as you're right as she did today. I think she's just getting quicker. I mean, they've obviously tried to make her a 2.5 mile horse, so that's organically how she was going. But since she's come back, she's just looked brilliant. The stronger the pace, the better. Like I say, they went a real good gallop today to find any chinks in her armoury, but there isn't any. She just jumped so well, and her relationship with Rachel Blackmore has got to be commended as well. I think Rachel really does get the best out of her. The two of them are a match made in heaven.
Yeah, after so many bad headlines surrounding the sport in the last few weeks and months, great to have a really positive news story and a spellbinding performance from her. I mean, the meeting got off to a spellbinding start as well, with Appreciate It routing the field in the Supreme Novices. Admittedly, Blue Lord's late departure exaggerated the winning distance, but you couldn't be anything but impressed by his performance.
Yeah, I mean, I was always confident that he'd probably defy one or two of his critics, because he just looked so good the time before at Leopardstown. He beat the right horses, and that was the Appreciated. I thought it turned up would be good enough. And again, the race set up perfectly for him. He got a good toe in with the front runner, and he settled well. He settled better with one or two in behind him as well. Saw in Glory, Ballyadam, even Blue Lord to a degree were just a little bit free, despite the generous pace. And it just proves what a professional horse he is. He's not one of those bull at a gate horses that will do something silly. He always gives himself a chance for his qualities to be maximised late on in the race. His time figure wasn't as good as Honeysuckle, but it was more than respectable. It was very similar to Shishkin's time last year. But doing the splits, the circuit times and the splits, he'd probably be roughly around about 10 to 15 lengths slower than Honeysuckle. So if they are thinking of the champion hurdle next year rather than the Arkle, they've got to probably find not a huge amount, but a good deal if they are going to stay down the hurdling route. Yeah,
although he did answer a couple of questions today, I thought. First of those was his ability to handle decent ground, because all the sort of pre-meeting vibes and the 10 mils that we had, the other day suggested the ground was going to be genuinely soft. The going allowance suggests it was anything but that, and probably just on the soft side of good. So the fact that he's had the ability to travel, settle better, he jumped a little bit cleaner, I thought, than he did at Leopardstown as well. I thought that was another positive. And he stepped up again, didn't he? We got him doing a 73. I think he's done a 76 today, which, is another leap forward from him in a championship race. He's held his form remarkably well. And I thought he was a very, very impressive winner. The margin of victory tells you that, which was 24 lengths. But, he still put good gaps between himself and, some talented novices in behind.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fairly weak division this season, hasn't it? We were expecting at least a couple of the UK horses to offer up some kind of resistance, but Metier, obviously that went wrong very early on. I think it was Saddle slipped, actually. It looked like it did halfway up, down the side. Soaring Glory Crusade just wasn't the same horse as it was in the Betfair hurdle, and the rest of the Irish got put in their place as they have done all season by Appreciate It. So it wasn't a stronger race as last year. Of that, there is no doubt. I don't have my doubts, like I say, whether he's a genuine champion hurdler. So I think if he were mine, I would want to be slipping him over a fence, I think.
Yeah, strong stare at 2 miles, goes on any ground and looks to have the scope to jump a fence, I think. Yeah, absolutely, job done. But Willie will know best. Just a quick summation of the selections that we put up. Sharjah, obviously nice profit there, and Black Tears without the favourite. And obviously Black Tears went and nutted the favourite. Yeah,
I'm sure there's one or two of these subscribers out there would have probably had a few quid on the win market just in case. But the advice obviously was without, because we thought Concertista was difficult to beat. But Black Tears, she's just a very, very reliable mare when it comes to the festival. It's the third year in a row now she's put a career best in, or season's best effort in. And you've just got to be with those horses that do time and time again, as we saw with Vintage Clouds, for instance, in the 3 mile. I mean, he's been around there more times than care to imagine. And fair play to Black Tears, because she, Concertista had a good couple of lengths advantage on him, and she fetched her out on the running. Her sectionals as well, amazingly, were similar to Honeysuckle. In fact, she was faster from 3 out to the line than Honeysuckle. But she's really had to rip, and it's understandable, therefore, having done the sectionals, why Concertista got beat. People think, oh, she's underachieved, but she's probably run just as good as she has done in previous years. But she just met a horse on the day in Black Tears who was a stronger stayer, and deservedly took the crown. She's been second there, placed there twice, and today was her day.
Right, absolutely. Good summation. Let's get on with day 2 then. We start off with the Ballymore Novices Hurdle. Yet again, a small but very select field of 7. And they're a pretty good 7 as well. Obviously, the main 3 will capture most of the headlines, but there's some decent members of the supporting cast in there, the likes of Kescon Risk and Bear Gills, etc. But of those 3, you're obviously very firmly entrenched in the Gelard de Menil camp, although you respect Bob Ollinger. How do you see the race now, and how they bet now?
I still think Galliard de Mesnil is slightly underestimated, or now Bob Ollinger's slightly overestimated. I don't see this being a 5-4, 5-2 kind of differential. Our figures suggest that Galliard de Mesnil is the superior, only marginally. I think his overall form level of his victory at Leopardstown is a better standard to the Bob Ollinger race. I think he beat a lot of weak stays. I'm not convinced Blue Lord really gets the trip. So I think they've gone over. I think there's a little bit of punters have gone slightly overboard with Bob Ollinger. That it's another one of those slightly overhyped horses. But I don't mind it like that, because it takes the pressure off Galliard de Mesnil a little bit. He's almost going to come here, dare I say, a little bit under the radar. I think there's still 1 or 2 people that don't realise how good he is. I think the good ground will suit him, because he gets over the ground really well. It might suit him actually better than Bob Ollinger. And I think this race will be a fairly easy one for Paul Townend to ride. He hasn't got too many runners to worry about. One would imagine that Brave Man's Game will be ridden forward. You'd imagine that Kim Bailey's horse, Does He Know, has made the running before, will go forward. So those 2 will go off in front, and it'll be a case of Rachel Blackmore and Paul Townend just sitting in behind and biding their time, popping away, and then making their move coming down the hill. So I think the big guns will really charge towards 2 out down the bottom of the hill, and then it's who's got the turn of foot and the stamina to get up the hill. Hopefully Galliard de Mesnil's got it. He's done nothing wrong in his last 2 runs. He suggests that he's got a little bit of everything. So quietly confident that if he can jump a clear round, that he'll give us a fair run for our money. A horse that we, of course, put up the first of our previews back in I think it might have been December, was it, or maybe early January?
Yeah. 16-1, I think.
16-1, yeah. Obviously with the 3 places, so 7 runners is bad for the lot, but it's good for us, because if he does finish 3rd, at least we get a return. But yeah, we when you back a 16-1 shot that goes off 5-2, you want those to win, really. So quite a bit riding on him tomorrow.
Okay, quickly onto the Brown Advisory Novices Chase then. Monkfish, but Borough Fall. Yeah, Monkfish Borough Fall, Sam. Yeah, not a lot to be said about this horse. Just a terrific specimen, terrific athlete. Numbers to die for, more to come. An easy ride for Paul Townend, off in front. Just basically run the first circuit as he wants, and then turn the taps on and get them all in trouble on the second circuit. I don't see these being good enough. I do respect Eclat de. I think he's a talented horse, but I just don't think the others are good enough. So yeah,
bookmakers had a wretched day first day on the whole. I think he's going to inflict more pain.
Let's hope you're right. Onto the Coral Cup. Typically robust and competitive renewal. 26 go to post, and Grand Roi likely to be favourite here, or at least vying for favouritism here. But also that I think we both spotted a little bit at Leopardstown is probably your number one pick.
Yeah, I'm quite keen on Kashari here. The numbers very much suggest Grand Roi with that 71 off the back of that run behind Backerson, but that was over 2 miles. So again, you've got to use a little bit of discretion there, and you've also got to use a little bit of discretion with Kashari. But if you go onto our race research page, you'll notice that Kashari's got a really good body of work beyond the 2 runs this season. The 2 runs don't really add up on the time figure. I think 56 is his best. But you go back to that run behind Mays run at Leopardstown at the Dublin Racing Festival. He headbutted, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd. He got shuffled back to last. And it was just an exercise from that point onwards of getting him home in one piece and do the best they can. They finished 6th, but it was a massive upgradable run. I think this race is tailor-made for him. 2.5 miles fine. So yeah, he'd be my number one. And I also quite like Birdsdale. You look at our stats, courtesy of the Galt stats that we've got there on the website. You'll notice that Nicky Henderson does really well in this. I think he's had 3 winners in the last 5 or 6 years. With horses like this, but William Henry was 4th the year before he came back to the Coral Cup and won it. Birdsdale was 8th in last year's renewal behind Stabber Companion Dom de Company. They've sent him over fences, but that clearly hasn't worked. He just hates fences. We did a nice spin round Kempton the other day in one of those jumpers bumpers when he went widest of all. And there's been a hell of a lot of horses that come out of those jumpers bumpers and done well since. That's the ideal prep. And Nico de Bruynville has, I won't say chosen him, because obviously Darryl Jacob rides for Simon Mania, but he's obviously stable jockey and riding here for the same colours that won it last year. So he's around about 14, 16 to 1, I think. If you can shop around for him, 6 and 7 places, you could do worse than him. So yeah, 2 each way bets against the field there for me anyway, Kashari and Birchdale.
Yeah, 2 for me. Birchdale's been one of them, and Thomas Darby's the other. Only running 1 handicap in his career, and that was a nice defeat for someone at Ascot, which he did quite comfortably. Obviously, 2nd to Classical Dream in the Supreme a couple of years ago, and won his maiden here on good ground. I think drying ground will help him. Tons of weight, obviously, but I do think he's a class horse, and cheap pieces going on looks an interesting angle to me. Yeah. Onto the Champion Chase then, Andy, and obviously a very interesting contest this with Chacun Passoir in and around the even money. He's been a horse that's been a bit unfortunate, really, that not a lot of people have really switched on to his potential greatness. Obviously, he was an 11th hour withdrawal in this race last year. Would have been fascinating to see him tackle that race last year. And obviously William Mullins is 0 from 10 in this race, so there's a few hoodoos that need to be sorted and finished here if Chacun Passoir can win. But he is the class act. But are we taking him on with something each way, perhaps for selective purposes?
I think we are. Yeah, I mean, I fancied put the kettle on for this race for quite a while now, and all the stars seem to have aligned. She comes here fresh, which definitely suits her. She was fresh here last year when she'd been off the track for a little while. She loves Cheltenham. She's 3 for 3 here at the track. And funny enough, the 3 wins the 3 times she's come here and won, they've all been on soft ground that really she doesn't like. She's very much a mare that wants fast ground. Looking at the time figures and the ground there yesterday, it's very much edging towards good rather than soft. Obviously, Yard had a winner yesterday with Honeysuckle, so the Yard's buoyant. And she's got a lot going for her. We're looking at, like, with regards to select as well for tomorrow, there's not a great deal of options or many races we could tip in that highlight the figures, and she does those. She's second in our numbers, so we're not relying on something having to improve a massive amount. She's only a couple of spots beyond Chacun Passoir, plus the fact she's had 3 runs around the track and Chacun Passoir hasn't. So it's a classic selector pick, isn't it, in many respects? Course and distance winner from an informed stable, and I still think she just about represents value around about 9 to 1. So yeah, we're quite happy to go with her tomorrow. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, she comes from a yard in rude health, doesn't she? As you say, great course and distance record, and Arca winners have got a really good record in this race, as you rightly point out. So yeah, we'll probably go with that each way, sort of half a point each way, 9 to 1 if you can get it. We'll skip the cross country. I don't think you've got a particular view, have you?
No.
I reckon the ground would be pretty lively on there as well, because obviously it's a course they can't water.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. I can just pass on a good message for what it's worth on Hogan's Heights.
Right.
I've seen a few home videos of that horse basically just whizzing round similar type national cross-country course being set up for him by Jamie Snowden via somebody's like a helmet cam. And he knows what he's doing. So yeah, he could be worth a look at a big price. I think he's 33 to 1 for those that are looking for a bet. But it's a race I normally like punting in, but I might stick him in the play spot with a few others and hope Easy's lands bombs out. That's about my only strategy.
Yeah, which could happen. He wasn't particularly happy on decent ground before Christmas there, so that there is a potential for a little surprise there. There's also a potential for a little surprise in the Grand Annual, isn't there, with 20-odd chasers going down to the first at hell for leather, 5 furlong pace. How do you approach this race? Are you in the Joseph O'Brien camp?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, it's a good race for the stats. This actually, if you drag up the Galt stats, and there's a couple in there that you wouldn't necessarily think would be that relevant, but the one of them I noticed not since 2004 as a horse come here and having won a handicap chase that season, which is a real head scratcher, isn't it? Really,
it is.
It's a good race for lightly raced horses as well. Not necessarily novices as such, but horses that have had 9 runs over fences or less, and you also preferably have not won that season as well, or had roughly 4 or 5 runs that season, so a light campaign. So the two that fit that criteria or close to that criteria are the 2 Joseph O'Brien horses, Embittered and the Toukas. So I can't split these two, so I'd probably back the 2 against the field. They both ran on the Dublin Racing Festival card. One in the Grade 1 Embittered and the other one in Toukas in the handicap. And I've done the split screen as well with the 2 of them when they landed down on the second that they've won going away from the stand to the line. And in Toukas just about came out on top.
Right.
There was hardly anything in it. You're talking about 2 lengths. Embittered ran at the festival last year, so he's got an advantage over in Toukas, who's yet to run here at Cheltenham. But either way, like they're 2 horses have been trained especially for the race. They've run against the, if in inverted commas, right novices trained in Ireland this season. So, and given that they look fairly well treated off 146 and 143 respectively, I'll take my chances and back both of those 2 against the field.
Yes, I'm still lamenting that Eldorado Allen hasn't made an appearance in this race.
Yes.
I mean, obviously they're rewarded with the 2nd place in the Arkle, but he fitted beautifully into all the stats for this race. He'd already been round Cheltenham, 2nd to Shishkin, obviously in the Lightning Novices Chase, which has worked out well. And he sat in the right weight band and the right runs band and was fresh and well. And anyway, it's one that's gone away. I wouldn't be surprised to see the other O'Brien horse run well. I think he's had a bit of remedial work, us and them. I napped him in the race last year. He was 3rd. He ran really well. 2nd in an Arkle to Duke de Genève as well. So he's got plenty of experience of the track. And he also fits another stat for this race in that I think 5 of the last half dozen winners have had at least 3 months off coming into it. So we haven't seen him for 109 days. I wouldn't worry too much about that. So he could be another interesting one at 16 to 1. So what do they say? If you've got to have a JOB if you want to get with me, and Joseph O'Brien is the man to have on side in the Grand Annual, clearly. The bumper then, you'll probably tip something here on Odds Checker that there isn't anything that stands out really for selector purposes, but just give us your thoughts there.
No, I just think this race might go towards the horse I think has got the most natural pace. I think Sir Gerard might just have too many guns for this lot. He's looked for me as well a horse with a huge turn of foot. He's got a big engine. I think Kilcruit's a very, very good horse. He's a high cruiser, as you saw as he went through his Leopard Sound race last time out. And he was the only thing on the bridle, wasn't he? A furlong out. That race rather fell apart though. But I think he's that kind of horse. I think he's a cruiser. But let's see what he can do when he has to quicken off the bridle. And it's both the 2 wins of Sir Gerard. He's had to quicken up to win. But he's quick enough to win on ground I don't think he's been massively in love with. So I'd be more than keen on him. I prefer him to Kilcrow under tomorrow's conditions, which is looking like edging towards good or good to soft ground. I respect Denise Foster's horse, Very Strike Life. Again, I think he's a horse with a huge amount of potential. I can't see the winner not coming from one of those three, but 2-1, 9-4 for Sir Gerard would be easy for me to say. Would be the one I'd side with tomorrow. I'm quite confident with him.
Is there anything at a bigger price in that race that you think, oh yeah, I'll have a few bob each way, that, because it looks a little bit out,
I do think
betting.
I do think Wonderwall's worth a shout. I mean, he's top of our figures. He won a good race on the numbers at Ascot early on the season. The race hasn't really worked out as well as I thought. The likes of Hamilton's Fantasy, Top the Bill, Can Do Kid, and a few others down the line haven't really boosted the form. He ran well next time out under a penalty back at Ascot. But he's a big horse, and I know the owners for this, and they've had this race in mind since then. They put him away, especially. I mean, he's like 40, 50 to 1, and a horse that's clear top of our numbers at 40, 50 to 1. If he can get 4 places for him, who's to say he couldn't hit the frame at a big price? And Ben Pauling's horse is a nice horse as well, fine casted. He comes out of a good race at Warwick on the figures. Finished second to a horse called Mai Tai, who travelled like the best horse in the race at Newbury next time, and he himself went to Newbury and won a bumper there. He's likely to make the run in and give you a good run for your money. So
he's 80 to 1.
I mean, it's an insult, really, 80 to 1. He's better than that. So yeah, I'm just mentioning names at prices for those that do like to have a dart at something a bit more fanciful than looking at down the front end of the market. But yeah, so Gerard, I'm more than happy with him.
Okay, brilliant, Andy. Great to catch up with you again tonight. And the selector pick will be Put the Kettle On, which we're happy with. Half a point each way, in and around the 8 or 9 to 1 in the price sort of bracket in the Champion Chase. Just to go on the back of a reasonable first day. Good start to the week we've had, and fingers crossed we can carry it all the way through. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll speak to you on Wednesday night.
Cheers, Sam.